In 1943, one American submarine shattered records and sent Japan's convoys running. But on her final patrol, USS Wahoo's trademark aggression collided with a silent trap, vanishing in waters so closely watched that no distress signal ever made it home. What split-second error led America's most dangerous submarine into a kill zone with no return? The answer changes how we see risk and legend on the open sea. Dudley "Mush" Morton brought a new kind of war to the Pacific. When he took command of USS Wahoo, he threw out the old playbook. Morton believed in hunting, not hiding. He ordered his crew to surface in daylight to fight, charging straight at convoys and opening fire with deck guns. He demanded torpedo shots at close range, sometimes right down the throat of enemy escorts. On his third patrol alone, Wahoo claimed more than 93,000 tons of enemy shipping in less than a month. The official tally would later shrink, but the message was clear. No Japanese ship was safe. Morton's doctrine was simple: attack first, attack hard, and never let the enemy dictate the fight. His reports described sinking freighters, troop transports, even small patrol boats. He once surfaced among a cluster of sampans, scattering them with gunfire and taking prisoners. The crew kept a running log of sinkings, marking each with a broom lashed to the periscope as a symbol of a clean sweep. Morton's name spread through Allied and Japanese circles alike. He became a legend to some, a menace to others. Japanese commanders began reinforcing convoys, adding more escorts and more air patrols. New tactics like coordinated depth charge barrages and tighter shipping lanes were designed with Wahoo in mind. Morton's success painted a target on the boat. Every patrol made the enemy more determined to find and destroy her. For Morton and his crew, the thrill of the hunt was matched only by the growing sense that, sooner or later, the hunters would become the hunted. Letters from home arrived in bundles, sometimes weeks late, but the words inside carried a weight that never faded. Wives wrote of ration books and waiting, of children too young to remember their father's face. Parents clung to official Navy updates, rereading each line for hints about the boat's whereabouts. With every patrol, the families knew silence could stretch for weeks. Radio blackouts were standard, and no news was often the only news. Still, the waiting gnawed at them. One crewman's mother kept his last letter tucked in her apron pocket, unfolding it each night to study the careful handwriting. A young wife in Kentucky sent a birthday card that never came back, hoping her husband would see it on shore leave. Telegrams from the Navy were always brief, never enough to fill the empty space at the dinner table. A historian once described these families as living in a world suspended between hope and dread. For them, every knock at the door was a question without an answer. As the days turned into months, the silence around Wahoo grew heavier. There were no signals, no hints, only the ache of not knowing. The crew's faces, frozen in black and white photographs, became touchstones for memory and longing. In the end, the cost of Wahoo's legend was not measured in ships sunk or medals earned, but in the quiet heartbreak of those left behind, waiting for a word that would never come. Wahoo slipped out of Pearl Harbor in September 1943, bound for her 7th war patrol. The orders were clear: penetrate the Sea of Japan, hunt enemy shipping, and return through the northern straits before the end of October. Morton and his crew topped off at Midway on September 13th, and then vanished into radio silence, a standard protocol meant to keep the enemy guessing and protect the boat from direction finding. From that moment, no one on shore would hear a word until Wahoo's mission was done. By late September, she was believed to have entered the Sea of Japan, operating south of the 43rd parallel. Reports of sinkings filtered through Japanese channels, but nothing came from the submarine herself. Morton's orders required him to exit the area by sunset on October 21st and report in only after clearing the Coral Islands. The clock ticked down in silence. On October 11th, Japanese records would later claim a submarine was spotted in the Sawyer Strait. Wahoo's last scheduled contact never arrived. At Pearl Harbor, staff waited for a message that did not come. Days turned into weeks. The Navy declared her overdue at the end of October. By December 6th, Wahoo was officially stricken from the rolls. She was recorded as lost with all 80 men aboard. No distress call, no final signal. Just a gap in the records and a line drawn through a name that had once meant victory. For families and commanders alike, the silence was absolute. Japanese records from October 11, 1943 describe a sudden burst of activity in the Sawyer Strait. Patrol aircraft from Hokkaido swept the sky that morning, scanning the water below for any sign of an intruder. Around midday, one crew reported a faint wake and a thin smear of oil, evidence of a submerged submarine fighting the current. Within minutes, a float plane dropped 3 depth charges, the explosions sending shockwaves through the shallow strait. Surface ships, submarine chasers, CH-15 and CH-43, along with the minesweeper WWII-18, rushed to the scene, circling the spot and rolling out depth charges in tight patterns. Japanese logs claim the attack continued for hours, with both bombs and depth charges hammering the water. Some reports mentioned bursts of bubbles and more oil spreading across the surface, but the details are not always inconsistent. One account refers to a coastal battery opening fire, while another suggests only air and sea forces were involved. The official Japanese summary later noted a confirmed sinking based on the oil slick and debris, but no wreckage was recovered at the time. No survivors surfaced. No distress signal was heard. Even now, the exact sequence, who struck first and what weapon delivered the fatal blow, remains tangled in translation and memory. What is certain is that the combined air and sea response was swift and overwhelming, leaving little chance for a submarine caught in that narrow, hostile corridor. La Perouse, or the Sawyer Strait, is a narrow corridor, just 25 miles wide at its tightest point, hemmed in by Hokkaido and Sakhalin. The seabed rises sharply here, with depths often less than 200 feet, leaving little room for a submarine to hide. Strong tidal currents run through the channel, forcing any boat to fight both the water and the clock. For Wahoo, the strait was a shortcut, but also a trap. Submarines crossing had to choose between running on the surface and risking detection, or creeping along the bottom where depth charges could easily reach. Japanese patrols in the air and at sea watched these waters constantly. In such confined space, every movement became predictable. The geography itself funneled Wahoo into the enemy's sights, compressing her options until there was nowhere left to turn and no way out once discovered. The search for Wahoo stretched across decades and continents. In 1995, relatives of the lost crew began urging a targeted expedition, piecing together Japanese attack logs and old Navy charts. The breakthrough came in 2006 when a Russian dive team, working with US Navy analysts, found a submarine hull resting upright in 65 meters of water in the Sawyer Strait. Sonar scans revealed the classic Gato-class shape, and ROV images captured the conning tower and deck gun, details that matched Wahoo's unique profile. The hull's scars lined up with wartime reports of a sudden, violent end. For the first time, theory gave way to proof. After 63 years, there was no more doubt. Wahoo had been found. Her story written in steel beneath the northern sea. Even today, the seafloor holds answers that outlast memory and rumor. Each wreck confirmed is a line crossed between myth and proof. As new technologies reveal old truths, the ocean reminds us. Some decisions echo for generations, long after the signal fades. Share your thoughts below.